Welcome to the work study for Pocahontas School District, first one in 2025. We open it up to Dr. Lance here.
Okay, we're going to start off. We've got the agenda in front of you or on your computer. We're going to start off with just thought we'd talk about some ongoing projects, give you an update on things we've talked about: roofing, softball complex, the parking maintenance, that kind of thing. Craig's been instrumental in pulling a lot of this stuff together and meeting with these guys and having conversation about it. And so I'm really going to ask him to just sort of share with the board where we're at, what we've accomplished, and what we're still working on at this point.
Okay, so the first week of December, starting out with facilities and roofing repairs at Coriel. They came and did an assessment last summer, December before this last summer, I guess, 2023. And gave us some reports on the MD Williams and the junior high roof. Obviously, we have some issues in both of those buildings with leaks. We did have them come and fix some of the minor leaking at the MD building, and then here in the junior high, primarily over here in the new additions, actually, are what we found the most problems in. What they did has resolved most of our problems. We still have a couple issues. Classroom over there has got an issue. We've got an issue right here by the front door with some leaking. And then just kind of what's developed since they've been here, a month ago. I think with the north wall of the gym, what I would know is the visitor side of the gym, has got some leaking coming down there. You guys go to a basketball game. It looks like some of those club boards are starting to come off the wall there, I think due to the water coming from, I'm not sure, somewhere on that north side. And there's one little spot in the business building that's got a leak, I think just probably around some flashing of a heating unit or whatever's over there.
The leaking, Craig, is between the mass and science wing and the lobby of the gym?
It's actually in the gym. So if you are sitting on the visitor side of the gym, there's a wall that's your back.
Okay.
I call it the visitor side, the side you guys sit.
Yeah. Well, there's been issues with that, but, that's a common thing.
Yeah, it's to the point where one of the coaches they were up here this weekend, and it was making puddles on the floor. They could hear it dripping to the point where I think it was starting to blow out some of those boards. And
So you said you have had people show up and work on it?
Well, that's the new development. We have shored up most of the MD issues and the junior high issues, other than classroom 24 right here by this main building. Since that's happened.
But they're slowly knocking them out, but now you're getting new ones, is that basically?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we just need to keep them coming back until they're all resolved.
Yeah, like I said, I was aware of both of those today, so I'm going to get back to Coriel and try to get it back.
Are they getting the ones fixed that they came to fix? Really good. Okay.
Yeah, so what they did on the first week of December, we got an inch of rain Sunday. Obviously it's wet season, so every time it rains, I'm walking those places where they fixed. And as of right now, I'm not going to wood no issues. So.
Good.
Baseball, softball complex. It all came through last week. We were in school before the break. Just saw them out there working on the roof. All the buildings out there have new roofs, new shingles. We will hope to start next week, weather pending, on the siding. Be kind of phase 2 of that project. As of right now, still looking at, I believe our first game is on the 3rd of March. Should be finished by then. Again, weather pending.
Now on that one, due to when you separate those out, the siding projects, they're all, $4,500, $5,000 a piece. I'm a little concerned that when next year when audit rolls around, what they're going to do is they're going to look at that and go, okay, that was $27,000. So on Monday, you'll expect to see an agenda item that, while we've already approved the overall up to 50,000, I'm going to bring that one item back and ask for approval on that. I think it's 27.5 is what we've looked at. That way we're covered from an audit standpoint. We're covered however they want to look at it. So that just to give you a heads up on one of the agenda items that'll come out of that.
But let's go, but since we're on the baseball complex, I mean, it would need some improvement. You know, we've had the lighting on our 10-year facility span for 10 years. I just drove by there and looked at it a while ago, and, you know, I was out there at ball games last year, and is there any interest from the rest of the board in pursuing that project? I mean, we had it all drawn out, and it got dropped. I think we need to put the poles and the new lighting in, like we've been planning on for 10 years.
I mean, that's,
I just thought about.
yeah, I mean, that's,
For discussion.
I think if you go look at it, I mean, you know my opinion, I think we've got far better issues than that, you know, and until we get a new FHA barn,
Well, we're talking about our 10-year plan, I mean, we're talking about prioritizing, and I'm just saying, you know, it's something that'll be done in the summer, of course, but.
well,
And we have different people on the board now, so is there any interest in that, you know?
and you'll see, I mean, not to, I don't want to push off the conversation, but just know that item 2.3 is taking a look again at that 10-year facilities plan and kind of seeing where we're at on that. But yeah, I mean, I would say if that's, you're right. I mean, that has been my understanding, looking back on board minutes and board agendas from previous administrations. That was, you know, that was on the docket. I think it was brought up for a vote.
But it never happened.
I thought what I saw was that it was tabled
It
for
was.
more.
What happened?
I think we
and
approved.
I agree 100%. Right at the time, remember the steel prices were crazy. And we were hoping they would go down in the spring, so we tabled it until.
I think we approved to get bids, and then we
Yeah.
never voted to.
We
yes
never
or
did approve the
anything.
bids.
Yeah, I mean, there were, I think that was, March maybe? February,
Well, our
March? Or-
former assistant superintendent is one that put all that together.
Right.
And then we just kind of put it on hold because I know Chad was saying, you know, the prices may go down substantially.
Yeah, but that was during the peak of COVID money.
Yeah.
And, you know, we weren't gonna get to it anyways during baseball season, and then, you know, that was before, about a year before you came on board.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, you know, just kind of laying there. But, you know, that's something, you know, been promising the public, you know, for years. We'll fix it, we'll fix it. And some of those people have graduated, but we still have the problem in it. I still say the biggest problem with the lighting is terrible, is the poles and the liability.
Well, I mean,
I saw Highlands fall, and I don't want to get in that situation.
Right.
And it fell the other direction, and been kids out there, then that could have been really bad.
well, and honestly, I mean, January and February are the months to make those decisions so that we can line all that up.
I just want to put it out there for us to discuss.
If that's something that's,
Whatever, you know, we decide to do.
I've got plenty of questions when you get to 2.3 because I wasn't a part of any of those
Right.
decisions in the
Yeah.
past, so.
Well, that's just, you know, what we have, Chris, is a 10-year.
Right, no, I read over it, and that's what I'm saying, since I read over it, I've got questions about why decisions were made, like, and maybe the things that I bring up have already been discussed,
Right.
but I just wanna know why that wasn't.
well, and to your point, it hasn't been passed.
Right.
It was proposed and we set it out there and we talked about it and then,
This is a rough draft.
yeah, we didn't
no,
really pick it
I'm just
back
saying,
up.
like, y'all have probably brought up some of the questions that I have, and if you have, I just wanna know why y'all decided not to go that route.
Yeah,
type thing, you know?
sure.
Well,
You had the poles checked, did we not, on the baseball field?
I looked into having them checked and nobody, in essence, nobody's willing to do that work.
APNL used to do it, or Energy. I don't think they
They do not.
I know when they did the football field, he told Coach Williams, I was standing down there, Coach Williams talked to him, he told us to think it 5 to 7 years on the baseball field. And that was 25 years ago.
I mean, what I ended up getting was Energy doesn't check their own poles anymore. They contract that out, and I contacted the gentleman, I think he's out of Iowa or something like that, and he said they don't do that private work anymore. So I couldn't find anybody willing.
Was that
to
the
do it.
osmosis I gave you, that one guy that was
Yeah.
local? Okay.
But
So-
it's just something that I want us to discuss, you know.
Okay. Yeah, let's move on to the parking lot.
Okay, so, if you notice out here driving through the ball games, I think we've got some white squares, rectangles on some patching work that we're gonna need to take care of. Starting really off of Benbrook, going up towards the high school, down to the football field, and on the business parking lot. Met with a company over the Christmas break, they came up, measured it out as well, gave us a quote on that, so we're still looking through, getting another bid on that. We'd really like to bring something for you guys before spring break. We've got to be an ideal time to do it when the weather's over. We get that fixed before summer.
I'd say it'd be best to wait till after the freeze and thaw is going on.
Right. And I mean, obviously, it's going to be a 2 or 3 day project. Like we said, no kids will be on campus.
Who was that bid from?
That was from Michelle's excavating.
Okay.
That's from Lucas Rush.
I think last time whenever we got Reynolds, I think
Charles
they
Reynolds.
I think he put a bid in as far as on this parking lot.
We're waiting on one more bid.
Gotcha.
To be able to bring some.
I was taking the 2 lowest bids from this, what we entertained this summer, contacted them, had them come back and rebid for the high school.
Gotcha.
Okay, we have done a couple walkarounds up here with a couple companies for key system for security improvements, for rekeying and getting new doorknobs for all the doors, exits, classrooms, office, everything that has a door in the junior high. I don't think it's ever been done before. Like I said, we've done 2. People were looking at anywhere from, I would say, roughly 160 to 170 doors. Got a couple quotes on that. We are still working through some of those questions. We have a couple of those companies on, with the pricing, with the difference of the pricing, with the difference of the actual interlock itself. So that is something also that we're working towards. It's going to be very beneficial for security, ADA purposes. We can look at, these doors right here don't have handles on them. So there are some issues as far as being an administrator in the building. You don't have a master key to get in every classroom. Right now, that's not the status quo of how it is right here. So we will provide some more updates as those details become available, and that will be a big one coming down the pipe.
And we have some doors that are not ADA compliant, so there's some of those things we're gonna take the opportunity to clean up as well at that same time.
If you guys remember, we did a massive school safety assessment this summer as well. It was very extensive. Just a couple of things that we really prioritized to implement that we brought before the board. These 3 buildings on this campus were not hooked up to fire alarms. If a fire alarm was to go off, right now in MD Williams, no one would have been notified. So we have worked with that, with our security system. Now we have not only our burglary alarms, but our fire alarms are all hooked up through May Security. And they're going on top of that, they're calling Pocahontas Dispatch. So whether it's, like I said, a burglary threat or a fire threat, we'll have first responders and administrators will be called. So that is something, like I said, we brought to you guys this summer that we've gotten completed. As you know, the junior high bathrooms, we spent a lot of time on that this summer. They did come up over Thanksgiving break. They repainted the walls. If you remember, they have the coating on the floor that's about 4 feet up. Some of the paint was starting to be peeled off the walls, some would come off, so they did come up over the break. They repainted all of that for us. We plan on summer, Neville's going to come back, take care of the floors. They're going to reseal them, the floors, and 4 feet up to it. So over summer, we should essentially have brand new floors and walls. They weren't happy with the way it turned out. I think they were a little wished on time, so they said they were gonna come back and redo that for us, once kids got out, so. A couple other things, I know some of you guys got kids in the junior high. We've had to shut down 300 and 400 all bathrooms. Like 3 times in the month of December. Had issues where they were starting to back up. They were coming up through the drains and the floors. Rick and Johnny went and cleaned them out, snaked them out. We're getting just piles and piles of paper product, toilet paper. Remember when we redid all that with Nabels, we got new dispensers through CNS. We don't know if that's the issue or not. So what we've done is, we actually came here today and we've gone back to the old paper products. Of course, we got the new dispensers with that, new brand, new models, new paper product company. We've gone back to the old dispensers, the old paper products. We'll see if that relieves those issues. So that got done today. Hopefully we don't have those issues anymore. Spikes, I don't know if you guys have been by there recently, but it's all cleaned up. The pods came in, everything that was in there has either been sold, recycled, or disposed of properly by the fire department themselves. Been talking to Cooper Clark, that's the contractor that will be doing the demo on the building. At this point, we kind of shut down communication with the community on asking, hey, what about playground equipment? Is there anything else up there to buy? We're under contract with them. We talked to Corbett. He said, as of our plan, we're going to let the city have first rights to any playground equipment. If they want it, we'll keep it. After that, I think he's going to talk to some of the local schools. If they don't want it, and he said we'll look to maybe auction that stuff off, via social media. So it's kind of where we're at with
Some of it has been removed,
Some of what, Gary?
the playground equipment.
I think some of it's been taken up. I don't know about how much has been taken off the property, but if that has, it should be through the city with Mark Tanner and them, because he told
City
us.
did that, okay.
He told me himself, he's like, I'm giving them first rights to it.
Yeah, all means.
And right now, it looks like the asbestos abatement is on track to start next week.
Oh, good.
So we're still waiting. I know talked to Todd and Lindley in his office. They're still waiting on a little bit of paperwork. We have not signed the contracts yet because they're still waiting on a couple of the insurance basically to come through on both the asbestos and the demo. As soon as that happens, we're good to go. We have talked to the asbestos folks, and they're going to be ready to go next week. So that's what we're looking at this point.
You got my email. I know you guys aren't alumni, but I've got that sign. I'm a Spike sign if anybody finds a place to put it.
No, okay.
Did you get my email?
Yeah, I
I thank you.
I don't think I saw
That
that.
sign was bought by a group of parents, PTO.
Well, the first side got damaged by the fire department. They split it in half whenever they were moving their
I
stuff out.
saw
So I
part
went,
of it hanging down.
yeah, I went and pulled the other side so the other side wouldn't get damaged. So I've got that. I think I tagged all you get.
Yeah,
Maybe I didn't
I saw
tag you
it.
in an email.
You see,
But I've got it screwed up in my lumber yard on the wall to where it don't get damaged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you guys find a place for it, I'll bring it over here.
Okay.
Probably need to put that in district storage.
Storage.
What happened to the other side?
Okay. The other side got,
It got ripped in half. I've got it at my house if you guys want it, but it's ripped in half. So I think maybe even the museum down here at the square might want it,
Well, I
That's
don't
true.
really think it's gonna be significant because it's just something bought a few years ago.
Yeah, well, it's
But
got the
we-
sign and
Dr. Arbuckle did retrieve the plaques, which that's something.
I have those in the office
He's got
down
them in his
here.
office.
I'll stick it up at the American Made store if not, but
But I say that might be useful somewhere. They've probably got a place in district storage to put it for now.
You guys have any questions as far as that goes?
No, everybody's been busy.
you're getting used to that kind of contracting. You're all experienced now, huh?
You bet. I'm great at spending money. I figured that out. It's easy to do.
Oh, yeah.
Taking after your wife?
She's spending my money.
No, she's spending her money.
Our money, that's right.
No, there's no hour, it's her money.
Her money, your money.
All right, item 2.2, we'll move on if there's nothing else. One of the things that I think is going to be important going forward, because we, as you can tell, we have a lot of things going on, from facilities to, culture, capturing kids' hearts. We've got letters going on. We're talking about, we're probably going to be bringing a math curriculum suggestion, recommendation to the board this spring. And so one of the things I think that we need to do is we need to start thinking about a strategic plan, a on paper document that, kind of directs and ties back to everything that we do. And so I've started something. It's really just what I'm sort of calling the bones of it right now. I'd like to just kind of work through it real quick to see if board members have any questions. Is this I think having some kind of strategic plan is going to be vital to our future and what we're trying to do. It will also require us to have some conversations, both internally and with the public, around what is it, we expect our graduates to look like. What is a profile of a Pocahontas High School graduate? I think that's important that we talk about, and it should guide what we're doing in the classroom, and it should help us articulate this is what the Pocahontas High School or Pocahontas School District experience looks like. And so if you, I don't know, that's probably the 4th or 5th page on there. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but if you look down through there, I tried to articulate and this is just a working document for this group, for our public, so that they kind of understand where we're going and what we're trying to do. And we have a mission statement in the district, a mission of preparing today for tomorrow. For me, what that means to me is we're preparing kiddos, we're preparing teachers, we're preparing administrators to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Students certainly have to meet the challenges of tomorrow, but our teachers have to meet the challenges of tomorrow. When we start talking about how is AI going to impact what happens inside the classroom, the student experience. And I think, we have to articulate what is our vision. It kind of starts with what is my vision for Pocahontas School District. And so I just tried to encapsulate, preparing today for tomorrow. What does that mean? To me, that casts a vision of inspiring excellence, empowering learners, and building a brighter tomorrow for every student, really. Again, none of this is set in stone. Obviously, the mission of the district predates me. I haven't come across anything where in the past the district has really talked about what is our vision for the future, what is our vision for the Pocahontas educational experience. And so I think having that conversation would be beneficial to us. This is designed to be a starting point. You can see there that why is a strategic plan important? I think it's important for a couple of different things. One, it aligns all of our resources, efforts, and goals across the district, creates a unifying focus for students, for educators, for our community. It ensures that we are focused on teaching and infrastructure improvements, staff development, and all of those things, classroom instruction, our facilities conversations, our PD, our staff development conversations, our culture conversations are intentional and make a difference for kids and for teachers. I mean, this has got to be a great place. One of the things I told you early on when I came in was, as I listened to our staff members, what I kept hearing was, Pocahontas used to be a great place. Pocahontas used to be a great district to work in. This was the place that everyone wanted to be. Well, we need to be in that situation again, quite honestly. And so we need to make sure that everything we're doing is meeting the changing landscape of education, because it's not staying the same. It's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to adapt. And we need to have a plan, a well thought out, reasoned, long-term plan to address our needs. And so, how do we turn our mission statement from just a statement to action? That's really what we need to do. What actions do we need to have as adults, as educators, to ensure, and as administrators, to ensure that we are preparing today for tomorrow? And that means from a facility standpoint, and from a training standpoint, and from a infrastructure program standpoint. And so I've kind of listed what I think would be some 4 key areas. Now, these are as we have more conversations with teachers in our community, we will refine these. But what I did was, over the last year, I have been collecting survey information. I've been collecting data. I've been having conversations with our community about what is it that they feel like is important. And when you boil all of that stuff, all of that information that they provided, when you boil that down, I think it boils down into these 4 areas: academic excellence and innovation, empowering educators and leaders. And you can see there that, academic excellence, we're emphasizing curriculum, student-centered learning, academic support, programs, extracurricular activities, agri, all of those things. Empowering educators and leaders, we're looking at, how do we invest in the development and retention of high-quality staff and leadership. 3, thriving together, what I'm calling thriving together in a safe and supportive environment. That's creating a nurturing atmosphere where students and staff feel secure, valued, and motivated. Right? Those connections. That's when we start hearing from our community that our relationships with kids' relationships with kids are strained. Well, we need to make sure that we are creating this thriving, supportive environment. And 4, building for the future. And really, we've had a lot of conversations. We're doing a lot of work. You just heard a report on modernizing facilities and infrastructure. We're having conversations about the baseball lights. We're having conversations about a new, how do we, as a group, as a school board, as an administration, how do we pursue the facility future of Pocahontas, and what does that look like? I highlighted in here that where does this information come from? And I kind of mentioned that insights gained from conversations and surveys of our stakeholders, parents, students, staff, talking to the seniors, community members. All of that information right now has been encapsulated in these 4 components. And really what I'm interested in is the, from a board standpoint, is this something we feel like is important to pursue? Because it's going to take time to do this. But again, I think if the idea is we're trying to not only act in the short term, but create a long-term plan in which we can accomplish those short-term tasks, and think about what does the district look like in 10, 20, 25 years. I think it requires a 3 to 5 year plan that we can come back to we're gonna look at every year. Are we making some accomplishments? Have we made some gains? At the end of 3 to 5 years, we look at it again and say, okay, now what does it look like? How does the plan adapt? And it becomes a living document, a living plan that helps navigate the day-to-day. Are we making this decision over here? Well, does it align with one of our 4 key pieces? If it does, great, we're making that decision. If it's not, if it doesn't, then maybe that's something we can just set off to the side for a little bit until we make sure we're aligned with the things that the district, that the board feels like are important for the district.
Well, I think it's a really good idea. I think you gotta have a plan. And I think you're right on target with this. Just, that's where the administration has got to lead us. Because we may not be here next year.
But a plan without a deadline is just a dream, so that's what I've been harping on my managers about, is they all come up with these good ideas, but then they don't put a deadline. And you can put this as a mission statement for the school, but if you don't put, hey, this is when we expect to see improvement, it doesn't really change.
But I would assume we need to take this approach to the 10-year plan, yes?
Yeah, well, if this is a direction that we feel like is important, and I do feel like it's important, then this becomes the jumping off point with which we create the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is going to have deadlines. It's going to have who's responsible, right? So we're going to dig into it. We're going to say, okay, like number 4 there, because since that's the top of the page I'm looking at, we're going to say, okay, here, what are our goals? What is it we want to accomplish that has to do with modernizing facilities, infrastructure? We're going to, and we have a whole 10-year plan that we can look at there.
Yes, number 4 would be a breakdown for the strategic improvement plan.
Right.
Number 3 would have another whole different plan for
Exactly.
something else.
And it's going to have not only deadlines, but it's going to have who's responsible for that.
Yeah.
Right? Who's ramrodding those particular goals.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm just going to tell you, that's going to take a lot of time, and that's going to take a lot of energy, and that's going to take a lot of conversation with our community. And while I think that's important, right, if the board doesn't want me spending my time doing that, then this is why we're having this conversation.
I agree. I mean, one of the things I learned talking with the community while I was running for school board is there is a disconnect between the school district and the community at this point in time. Just from what I gather talking with people. That's faculty, that's just random people in the community. I mean, I see people from all walks of life, what I do every day, and I mean, I've had countless people just make comments like, graduates from here just feel disconnected. Like, that's not the school I grew up in. Like, I don't even recognize it anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? That kind of mentality. And that's a problem because the school can't thrive if the community doesn't support it. And then it goes into the town as a whole. I mean, the first thing anybody looks into coming in and bringing a new business is, what's your school district like? And if it's not a school district they want their kids to be a part of, then they'll just take their business down the road somewhere else.
But some of the disconnect I see, people will tell us that, but we don't ever see them at the meetings, ask to make a public comment. And try to be more involved.
I mean, I do get that, but not everybody has the ability to do that. They're telling the school, that's the whole point of us being present, right? They told me, so they did bring me to the meeting, because they told me. They don't have to physically show up. I mean, that's
I would like to see people come and have more of an interest.
Sure. I agree.
I hear 90% complaining and 10% doing.
Sure.
And, but everybody's limited on time.
I think,
Same as us.
I think what they do is a lot of these people that make comments, they're seeing social media things pop up from these people that don't have a clue, right? And so they assume that that's the majority, right? So we need to counter that with a constant in your face, this is the plan, this is how we're improving it, to where people don't see just constant negative social media about things that we do at the school, because most of these people that have the opinion, the school's not like it used to be, all they're doing is reading social media posts.
I would agree with that, but it
It's
boils down
a change in time.
It boils down to anything, though, whether a relationship with your spouse or friends or whatever. It's just communication. Because I'm telling you, since I've been on the school board, the very short amount of time, lots of the conversations that I've had with other people where we were like-minded, some of the things that we've talked about, this is what I've learned so far, you just can't do. But the public doesn't know that. They think it looks like common sense, just like I did, but until you get on this side of it, understand the rules and regulations that the state has put in place, you just can't do that. Now, if you don't like it, that's great. You need to talk to Trey. So he's got to take that to Little Rock.
Right.
And then we got to start it there. The problem you have is not here with this school or the school district, it's with the state. And I get that. But that's another fight for another day. So let's focus on what we can control. But I feel like it's our job, we got to educate the people on, I hear you, we've heard this conversation brought up, this topic brought up, here's why it hasn't been done that way, or here's the steps we must follow based on state guidelines to make this happen. We want your input, but just know it may not be able to be done the way you want it to, even though common sense says, or logic says, do it that way. Because they just don't know, they're uninformed.
Well,
That's right, Chris. I've often said 98% of the decisions are made above our heads.
Oh,
We have no control.
I agree with that.
And people really don't understand that, but that's.
Still a lot of people think that we run the school. No, we don't, And, every time somebody will call with a complaint, okay, you need to contact your principal at your school. If you don't get satisfaction, set up a meeting with the superintendent, and give them all the chains of it. Like I say, most people don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but I do think what Dr. Arbuckle has presented here is talk about, it does give you a direction to go. And, and of course, it's a lot of, as you said, moving parts in that direction. But if you've got a plan, whether it's a facilities plan or an academic plan for, let's say, for the elementary school, that academic plan is in place, somebody's responsible for it. I think and there's accountability. I'm a strong believer in, this is the plan, you're gonna work it. Now, I want you to report back to me how it's working.
And I think the plan is going to let the people inside and outside the mechanism know what's important, right? And we're making decisions in a way that coincide with what we feel like is important. And I do think without a plan, it becomes very difficult for someone to know, well, is that important? I don't know. It's not written down. It's not, that kind of thing. Now, and you're right. I mean, it has to have dates. It has to have deadlines. It has to have, and that's why I think it's important that even within while the plan is say a 3 to 5 year plan, within that plan, each one of those goals might have a different deadline where we're going to accomplish that, in a year. And then you come back and go, did we do it in a year? Yes or no? If we did, great. We move on to the next thing. If we don't, we need to relook at the deadline and say, okay, why did we miss it? What do we need to do differently? Does the deadline need to be reset? Those kind of things.
Well, you're already on the good track. You've already got Craig on the number 4, as he's kind of in charge of number 4, right?
In essence, yeah.
Well, how about finding 3 good people in the school that are going to be here for a while, and you put them in charge of these things, and then you can kind of manage them, you know what I mean? And that way, they can focus more on each one of these.
And the truth is, we have to unpack these. We have to.
Yeah.
We gotta expand these and okay, what does this really mean?
And leaders. That's someone who all the teachers respect. You know what I mean? You're going to find a teacher who is well respected by everyone. That can manage that one. Someone who's good with children instruction is number 1. And so on. So that's my thinking on it. So instead of giving you power to throw this on your plate, you can definitely do it, but you're going to be delegating to someone that, like Craig, has already got the number 4 going pretty good. So.
Well, I think the delegation happens after it's established, right? The individual steps are broken down, kind of like number 4 is already broken down.
But we're not gonna be able to know the steps, the teachers are gonna have to figure these
Oh,
out.
yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, them and Dr. Arbor,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
us.
yeah.
I mean, I think we're here for the accountability part, right? You talked about someone being accountable.
Yeah.
You know, we're not here to run the school, that's their job.
Yeah.
But we are the public, so our job is to say, well, you said you were gonna have this done in a year and you didn't, why? You know, there might be a logical reason why. Resources weren't available, or, you know, the timeline got kicked back because the program you were gonna use didn't launch on time or whatever. But that's what our part is. That's our job, is to hold it accountable. They gave us a deadline, here's what we did, why didn't you do it? Because we're answering to the public. That's what I look
Well,
at.
yeah, and you'll see in here, I mean, there's a lot in here that has to do with policies, that have to do with, salary schedules, that have to do with, I mean, the things that this body by law has to vote on, has to approve, right? And so, while I can create the plan, there's a lot in the plan that I can't accomplish without the support of the school board.
But that, in essence, though, you know, I've been around here a long time. You look at the superintendent, make the recommendations, he's gonna justify those recommendations and you support him. That's just the basic, simple of the way you gotta do it. Because I don't know, I'm not trained, I'm not paid to, you know, to know what the curriculum needs to be in the 3rd grade. That's, you know, that's your job. You're gonna do that job. And, so that's the part I think the board has to support the superintendent's recommendations. Because he's gonna justify his own recommendations. And that's, it's work.
Well, you've already got this in the work study, or the work session, so apparently you're wanting to move forward with this, right?
I mean, unless somebody says this is not a direction we want to go, we don't want to create a plan, then yeah.
That's like basically saying we don't need it. I mean, I don't know anybody, right, that would say we don't need it, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you're doing this already, it's just not in a set 1, 2, 3, 4, basically, you know?
I mean,
You've
I've
already
been-
talked about salaries, that's in number 2.
I've invested
Prioritize
some
competitive
time in
salaries.
it,
you know,
yeah.
so.
The biggest thing that I've seen so far while I've been on here is we'll come up with something and, you know, all of us will be gung-ho on it to move forward and go, but then 4 other things take priority above that. And, you know, it's like we do seem to kick the can a lot. Just like, say, the baseball lights, I can remember that from a couple of years ago. You know, but there was other things that took priority in front of that. And, you know, it's kind of like saying, we keep coming back to stuff, it seems like.
And I think,
And finances certainly plays a major role. There may be
Without a
something that we would like to do, and Dr. Arbuckle, he's our financial manager, he says, guys, here's why we need to put this off, because this is fixing to happen.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, maybe.
So that's gonna happen, that's just like your personal business.
Right.
You wanna maybe buy a new truck, but something else comes up, well, I maybe need to get this, I'll get the truck later on.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, maybe on some of the subsets from 1 through 3 at least, some of those are more about creating a different culture, so that doesn't necessarily cost money every time you do this.
No.
Sometimes it's just implementing a new program that doesn't cost anything, it's just a program to change the
And I
culture.
can give you an example, you know, Dr. Arbuckle has started the surveys, and that's one thing that we learned, I think, over the past, since COVID. You know, we always wanted the people to come to meetings and get involved, and nobody ever would, but they're quick to criticize you for the decisions you made, but they don't understand why you made those decisions. But he's reaching out to the public with those surveys, giving them an opportunity. I think everybody deserves to have a say. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
We may not agree, but I'm going to respect what you think, and that's just the way I approach everything. You know, maybe we can work together in some way. May not be perfect, but
Well, one
you know,
subject,
and I think reaching out to the public is what you've done has been great.
one subject that we need to probably address before it happens is, are you kicking off tomorrow the cell phone in the bag thing?
they're not here yet.
Okay, so it's, before we kick that off, it needs to be a social media post about this is happening this week, instead of somebody throwing it out on, because it's always the first post that gets the most
Yeah,
shares.
somebody's phone.
About
gets
that
activated
subject.
Or whatever.
And so some mom is gonna be irate about it and throw it out there, and it's gonna get shared 100 times, and it will be all these negative information. Well, if we already put it out as a school, this is what's gonna happen, and these are the reasons we make it happen, before somebody starts throwing out these stupid reasons that we did it, if we put it out there ahead of time, it's not gonna be near the response that these people post, because then someone else is gonna say, hey, well, the school board already notified everyone that this was the reason, here it is. And then you get a lot less response from just people sharing and saying, that's ridiculous, it's the first time I've heard of it, you know. I think
You're still gonna have those people.
Yes,
Well,
you
You're
are.
not gonna get rid of
You're
them.
going to, but now when those people have those negative comments, somebody can
Yeah.
also go back and go for like, they gave us a weekend, they told us this 10 days ago, that this was happening, so if you didn't know about it.
Yeah, and we're
you
looking
never
for
gonna get rid
the,
of the naysayers.
But you know, as opposed, you know, I scroll through and I'll see all these comments about the school. 90% of people were like, I'm not even gonna engage this argument or
Yeah.
this stupidity, and scroll on past it anyway.
but that's what I think that people are seeing, is so many of those posts, just mainly just parents who are mad about one little aspect, and we didn't communicate to the public early enough about why we do things. And so if we jumped ahead of the game and we would share before they had a chance to nitpick, and tell them why we did these things, because these cell phone bags, we're trying to improve these children's attention spans in school, basically, you know, and we're gonna try this, you know, and it's, yes, it might be a little inconvenient for you to call the office here if you need to get hold of your children in an emergency, but guess what? We're trying to raise these
You should
test
do it when I
scores.
was
Yeah.
growing up all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those same people are the ones griping about test scores not being what they expect them to be either. Well, maybe this is part of the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And he still said the magic word, communication. Now let's be proactive instead of reactive.
Well, and one of the things I'm in conversation about for this semester is, you know, I'd like to get a weekly time, and I've been talking with Tim on that, a weekly time. I guess he's got some time on the radio. So I'm gonna start, you know, as soon as we can get that coordinated, I'm gonna start doing a weekly 15, 20 minutes on the radio about updates about the school. What do? We can talk about the cell phone bags. We can talk about the capturing kids' hearts. We can talk about, you know, so that we have another avenue to get that information from the district out into the community. I think we learned a lot at that Marshallese
That's what I was gonna
conversation
say,
we
is
had.
For those of you who weren't at the Marshallese community event that us three went to, that was one of the main things they said. They prefer to have everything in some kind of audio or audio visual like this in Marshallese and in English, because that's the way they best.
And not on Facebook. I thought that was a revelation to
Yeah,
me.
not on Facebook, and they prefer it not to be written in either language. That if they have to, they'll do it that way, but they just said they're not gonna especially when you translate it into Marshallese, they said too many things get mixed up. So
They want it on YouTube, so we're gonna be making more use of YouTube and less use of like Facebook Live and those kind of things, because we have a lot of our families are non-native English-speaking families that aren't on Facebook; they're on YouTube. And so I mean, I feel like we've got some avenues that we can
See, that-
approach.
But what you're saying, that all fits in a strategic plan.
Right,
That's
right.
what you're talking. So I think you're right on. Let's get a plan, ditto together. This board needs to be behind that plan and behind you to execute the plan however you see fit. And I think it's a great idea. It kind of brings everything together that we can all work together.
And,
You know, we
yeah.
may not always agree on everything, but, you know, at least we give you the support to lead our district, which that's who, you're the only one that gets paid to do that.
And I think having that unified plan is gonna be important.
Yeah.
That's where
That's
I'm going.
That's a great idea.
Okay, well, we're gonna continue to unpack that and periodically bring these back to the board to have you look at them, approve them when necessary, and go from there. Any other questions there? Now, this is somewhat related, so I went ahead and put it back on here, is this facilities plan. And Chris, I know you said you had some questions regarding this, so let's just kind of sort of review what this is. Again, as we were kind of having lots of conversations about the different facilities projects that we have talked about. We've talked about the baseball lights. We've talked about a new high school. We've been Alma Spikes. I feel like, I'm gonna say this, I feel like in the last semester, with having Craig on board, we've been able to accomplish a whole lot more this year than we did last year. Now, part of that is my first year and learning everything, but I mean, I feel like we're really making some strides, especially in
You've got some
the infrastructure side.
You've got assistance.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, you probably need 4 more Craigs.
So anyway, and the dollar amount on here is it's a projected ballpark. I mean, we could have put, 60 million, we could have put 110 million, and I mean, I think it's all pretty relative, because who knows what it's going to look like in 10 years. But it was designed to be somewhat in the ballpark. You'll see that a lot of the projects on here are expansion of agriculture program, transportation and maintenance facilities, a new high school. We've talked about expansion or some kind of change to our agri-pens down here. So there's a lot to sort of unpack in here. It has 4 goals around facilities. You'll see that: ensure that access to buildings provide comprehensive levels of safety, security for students and staff. The facilities will support students as they pursue high skill, high wage opportunities. That's again a requirement by the state, that high skill, high wage opportunities, by creating spaces that support career readiness and hands-on learning. Goal 3, enhance energy efficiency while implementing cost-saving systems and behaviors across the district. And then goal 4, focused on the present with an understanding that we're all moving into the future. And so within there, I tried to, the next few pages, when you start looking at page 5 and on, what's the current facility assessment for each of our buildings? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are things that we're going to have to continue to watch or possibly deal with? What are future recommendations as it stands right now? And we just go through there for every building that we have. Now, part of that is because under the LEARNS Act, we had to do a comprehensive safety review of every building in the district. Well, if we're doing a safety review of every building in the district, it makes sense that we would do what I'm going to call a complete review of every building in the district. The infrastructure, where do we have issues, roofing, I mean, all that stuff that's in here right now.
One question I have, with our new elementary facility, is there any funding that state or federal is making available for solar? To try to cut some of the, one of the things I seen was energy efficiency and stuff. Is there anything like that the government is pushing forward?
Well, I'm starting solar right now in all my facilities, and I'm going to get around 80% off. So I'm spending 1.3 million, and by the time it's done, it's going to be less than 300,000. So I don't know. I'm sure from a business standpoint, I'm sure the schools are going to get every bit I would qualify for. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to offer it to me if they're not going to offer it to
they're
schools.
offering to you in the form of a tax break, because that's how most of them
Yeah, well, it's a REAP grant, it's called. So 50% of it is a REAP grant. They just went up 6 months ago from 30 to 50%. And then 20% is a tax credit. And then I get 10% off for using American-made products. And then I get my depreciation on which you guys wouldn't have depreciation. Well, you might, I don't know. But basically, it's going to drop my bill. It's going to take me a year to recoup all my money, to get I'll get all the grants back and the tax credit, because you only do a tax credit when you do your taxes, of course. But by the time I'm done, I'm spending 1.3 million out of pocket. But then a year later, I will recoup $1 million of that, you see what I mean? So it drops, my electric bill is $65,000 a year, and so it will pay for itself in 4 to 5 years, because I'm only out $300,000, you know what I mean?
I would tell you I've had some conversations mostly last year, and there is an appetite to have conversations with school districts about putting or investing into solar. What companies like Entergy and Nabholz is in on it now. What they're doing is they're coming in, and they had a conversation with us about they would be interested in us leasing, in essence, solar panels that they would put on, their property, or we could put it out there at the elementary school, right?
Right.
When you do that, you take on the maintenance and all of that with it. And then what they're going to do is they're going to loosely, I'm going to use the word guarantee, but they're going to say, okay, this is what you can get your rate's going to be going forward. I've had some conversations with other superintendents who have gone down that path, say 7-10 years ago, and what I walked away from is it's not quite as rosy as they're telling you.
Without a doubt.
And it's really, right now, it's sort of 6 1 half dozen of the other.
Gotcha.
In the long run, you're going to probably pay about the same cost. It's just on the solar side, it's going to be upfront costs. That's what I'm figuring out. On the solar side, it's going to be some upfront. Really, where your savings are going to be in, transitioning all your lights and making sure that you've got energy efficiencies going on in your buildings and those kind of things.
I find it hard to believe that, there isn't federal grants out there that would cover 100% for a school.
There are some. Again, we had, I think I brought it back. I brought this to the board's attention, 6 months ago. We had a gentleman in here. The city's putting in, 4 charging stations for EVs.
Right.
And they were interested in putting EV stations up here in front of the high school. Going to do it completely for free. I didn't feel like it gave us any real benefit, and so we decided at that time not to pursue that. Again, that would be one of those things where if that's a direction that the board wants to go as far as like solar and pursuing some of those things, I think having that strategic plan would be important, because
That'd be great to have.
it would. It'd go into.
For you to research and give us a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't brought it up because I want to give it a year under my belt before I realize if it was worth it or not.
Right.
And because I know what people do is they try to quote you the best price possible, but it may not actually cover 100% of your electrical usage, because they want to be lowballing in the lowest bid. So I want to make sure that I know that, hey, this many solar panels will equivalent to this many kilowatts.
The consensus I've had from
Talking
people
about-
is if they had to do it again, they would.
The gym? You talking about the gym?
No.
The other thing, this is in a small district like us, and we are small compared to it. You're talking about that, and what little bit I know about solar, there is a maintenance issue, and I don't think, this was brought up about 5 years ago. Well, when we were starting on the new elementary. Company came in, new solar, this, that. We would have to hire 3 to 4 more people that would be qualified to maintain that system. So it would have cost the district $300,000 to $400,000 a year extra. Are you gonna save that much?
Right.
And it's just one of those deals. I know they're better now.
Well, 10 years ago, they had a 15-year shelf life. Now they have
Okay.
30, so it's a lot more feasible now. But once I get a year under my belt of usage, hopefully I can
That'd be a
show
good
you
thing to
that.
have on the strategic plan.
Follow up,
Chad, you report back to us
That's
in a
right.
Well,
year.
Jennifer also has one on her chicken house.
Yes,
so
she does. She has one in her house too.
Really?
It's right next to their house. Yeah, I mean, because you never know, I mean, I was the same way, I was sold on the hydrogen stuff, and I built my house however many years ago.
I did it too.
You know, the thing is, was there some energy savings? Potentially, but I really, if you want to be honest, I think the energy savings came from the house was zoned. So I had 4 thermostats that worked independently of each other. To me, that's where the savings were.
Your windows and your insulation did
Yeah,
the
because I could
majority of your
shut it
savings.
down, whereas, you know, nobody was in that part of the house. I kept it, you know, a little bit cooler in the winter, and a little bit warmer in the summer, that type of thing. So was it the coupling in the ground?
Yeah, I didn't see any savings.
Closed loop system, I doubt it.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many solar panels are down there in that board?
Well, there's 1,800
A bunch.
acres.
I mean, how many solar panels is
How
there?
many ever you can get
That's
on
how
per
many
acre
acres.
times 1,800.
I drove by that the other day, I was wondering how big that farm was, 1,800 acres, it's
As
huge.
far as the eye can see.
We've considered it, you know, even on our row crop over at Peach Orchard, because you can draw roughly about $900 an acre off it. You know, if you allow them to come in and put it in, it's $850 to $900 an acre. You can draw rent for them just establishing their
But
solar
you can
panels.
look at it, Brent. That ground down there
Was the
is
sorriest ground.
prime farm ground.
No, that was the worst ground in the state.
Why, don't flood
It's just, I talked to all those guys at Newport and they said they're making more money off that with solar panels than they ever would with a.
I bet they are.
He just
It
like to
was
say it was
horrible.
prime.
No, it
prime
wasn't.
land.
They said it was some of the sorriest ground in the state of Arkansas.
Just pour dirt.
Yep, poor dirt. They could never build it up enough.
If you can get somebody
I
to put
solar
in,
panels on it.
you can get somebody to put in a windmill, no, those puppies bring in money.
Well, they had one at one time there, the same people
They did.
they did across it. Problem is, whenever they go down and you gotta have maintenance, it's out the wall.
Oh, yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, they ended up just tearing it
Well, I mean,
down.
that's something that could be part of something we could research, but it's on the strategic plan that's.
You know, I think everything is, the future is going, and there's gonna be advances with all of it. You know, but, you know, I think there is gonna be a consensus, at least in solar, that's gonna, you know, down the road it is coming. You know, I just kinda wonder if, you know, like say the federal government was, you know, they were big on pushing it. You know, you kinda think for schools and stuff that they're helping.
They jumped from
fund.
50 to 50, jumped from 30 to 50% in the last year, so they're trying to push it even more, you know, so they're
Well,
still doing
that's
it.
something good that Dr. Arbuckle could check with other districts.
That's a good
And
lobbyist.
see if there's anything out there.
Could be it, yeah.
That's something. But
It's not feasible.
So, I mean, I don't know how we're gonna handle this going forward. So my big question when it came to the 10-year plan, it was just simply this question, because I've had this asked to me and I don't know. Are we building the new high school exactly where the old high school currently sits? And if so, what's the rationale as why it has to be built right there where it sits?
Question mark.
We haven't,
I can answer
we haven't
that.
said yes.
Yeah, and I don't know, and that's what I was
I can
asking.
answer that because it cost, the square footage, it cost $3 to $4 million cheaper to build it there than to go build it somewhere else.
But that doesn't make sense to me, because the construction in virgin ground is cheaper to do than tear down and rebuild. Plus, you got the extra cost of, if you tear this school down, then you gotta temporarily furnish the
You
kids.
gotta tear it down anyway.
Well, I know, but if you build the new high school adjacent to the new high school gets built, they stay in this building until this building's done, then tear this one down and move to the new building.
Well,
I'm just being hypothetical. I don't
yeah, and
know.
that was the problem, there's not a place to do that. You know, after looking and having the engineers look at it, they said, the best option for y'all is to build it right there.
I really think as little of parking as you know, we're not full of the parking lot. I mean, you've got that hole between the softball and baseball fields. I feel like you could actually bring the high school up in front and into the parking lot and not affect your parking too much, you know?
Well,
And,
and the second rationale behind that was, of course, you know, there's stipulation, we did present a gym onto it. To see, everything would be inside one building, and see, we got the math and science wing. That's a $6 million building.
So can I give him a 5-minute spiel on what we've talked about?
And you tie it into that. One thing from a safety standpoint, we wanted everything under one roof. That way they could walk to a hallway and go to math and science wing. See, there would be 6 more additional classrooms down there. What's already there, how many are there now, Craig?
The math science,
Yeah, in the new park.
7.
See, that's all part of it. They could walk to the athletic building and not be, you know, it was a part of a safety issue.
Well, I don't mean like
Yeah.
keeping the campus completely enclosed and all the buildings
Yeah.
connected. I don't mean that, I just mean like the configuration of, because you do have a car parking lot, and I understand the baseball and softball fields are there, but I mean, expense-wise, that's not a huge expense.
In April,
Completely
But
move.
once the
April.
engineers looked at it, you know, they said, you know, yes, we can. You know, we could back it up to that softball field, but you're gonna lose, you know, all this parking. Well, and the issue we got now with the cafeteria, the old cafeteria, which we would have a new cafeteria, but I think under the circumstances, and, you know, that decision will have to be made, it would not be torn down. So you've lost a lot of parking.
April this year, we're gonna know how much the state's gonna pitch in. And that's deciding, that's gonna figure out whether we're gonna spend 25 or 35 million on a high school, basically, is what you.
I don't think, personally, I don't think we're looking at 35 million. I'm just gonna say that.
Between 20 and 30 million. Is that better? So that's whether we can spend 20 or 30 million and whether we have to borrow to go higher than that, okay? Because that's the only alternative, right, is for, bonds, right? To get
No,
more.
that's not the only alternative.
Besides raising the millage.
Now, I mean, would you rather, right? I mean, right now we have roughly $750,000 is what we're drawing above what we need to pay our debts. So in essence, our debt service,
We talked about that.
right, is, now, the question is, going forward, you can either, in essence, borrow against that equity and say, okay, going forward, instead of having $750,000 cushion, we're gonna have a $100,000 cushion, right? Or you can say, we wanna continue to have $750,000 cushion, and so we're gonna have to borrow up
But the
to,
flip side of that is also that's contingent upon us continuing to run at the 82% budget rate that you said we're running at roughly.
for personnel.
For personnel, which means teachers aren't gonna get any kind of increase after this whole LEARNS Act situation, so.
Well, and that depends on our enrollment.
Right.
If enrollment goes down, then we either have to, our staffing is always going to be in relation to our enrollment. So if enrollment goes down, then staffing's gonna have to go down.
Hey, Chris, that is the hardest part for our superintendent is you really don't know how much money you're gonna get next year or year after. That's the hardest thing for them to plan and project. And I know Mr. Van Kemp said that, Mr. Blacksley both said that was the hardest part of the job. You don't know that. Now, could it be less? Yeah, it could be less. Could it be more? Yeah. It could be.
And right now, we don't know because the legislature hasn't decided what that is yet. Now, as far as, and I'm gonna throw this, kind of go back to your question on where does it have to be built, right? The state says that if we build new construction, we have to build an auditorium and we have to build, you know, all these pieces. If we are adding on to an existing building, then we don't have to build an auditorium. That's how we get out of the auditorium business, right? If we, in order to qualify as an adding on, we have to build onto the existing new math and science wing.
But what I'm saying is, is there not a different direction you could go other than putting it right back?
Well,
I'm
I
saying
think-
lose a parking spot, but if I move where the building's gonna go on the parking lot, where the old building was can become parking lot.
Well, but you got kids.
As long as you
got
connect
kids
it to
walking
that,
around.
to that other
And
piece.
I also understand too, if we did go the auditorium route, it has to be connected, because that would be our safe haven during a tornado situation.
And it's gonna be more expensive.
Yeah,
If we look at
but
all
we get more
these
money
things-
too, if we go that route.
So a few months ago, we met and decided that to go ahead and pursue the state contributing to their partnership funding for a gym. because they would have, what was it?
3 million.
3 million. They said, if you're gonna do a gym, we'll contribute 3 million, so we went ahead and decided that that was worth petitioning, because, you know, gym's probably gonna run us $5 million, so we might as well take 3 million of that from the state, you see what I mean? Because we have to have a building that houses all the students in case of a tornado, safe room, and our gym can be utilized that, so we might as well use that gym, that new gym, even though I was against tearing this old gym down, but if they're gonna give us 3 million for a new one, we better go ahead and do it.
60%. But let me say this then. The reason why I was saying that is this. If we got all these other facility issues that we gotta do, making sure we know exactly where the building's gonna go is important, because I don't wanna spend money on the new baseball lights if we're gonna move the baseball field 3 years from now. Does that make sense? Sure. And that's where I'm getting at. If you moved everything forward and we said, hey, you know what? Let's use the ground over at the elementary school with the softball and baseball where it's its own complex. It's enclosed, they got parking. I'm just throwing this out hypothetically. So now that's all been moved, so let's not spend however much money it's gonna take to do that now, when in 3 years from now, we have plans to move the whole facility over there. Does that make sense?
Those are things that, you know, we've talked about for years, you know.
Right.
I mean, like.
And I'm just trying to play catch
Well,
up and see what
just
you're
you know, a little bit back to the strategic plan, you know. One of the things that we had looked at for years when we bought the land out there, that we envisioned that being a pre-K through 6. There would be another campus on the other, adjoining to it. Whether or not that's still something that might happen, we don't know, we might. But it would free up room here, and, you know, you would have an entire campus together instead of split up. Because see, 4th grade was supposed to go out there, but the numbers were so high on K through 3, we had to keep 4th grade over here.
So I think the plan is we're not getting too detailed as far as where it's going and what we're building until we find out what money we have.
Sure.
And which will be in April, right?
April to May, yeah.
So hopefully in April, May, we'll have an idea and we can kind of start pursuing what we want to do there. So.
I think one thing, and of course, this part of this is, I really think as a board, you know, and with our administrators, we need to define what's our most urgent need. And, you know, and I know y'all heard me say it 1,000 times, a high school facility is our most immediate, in my opinion. When we got the funding for Alma Spikes, that when they evaluated both buildings, see, that was phase 2, which did not pass, so we couldn't build it. That was phase 1. It was a 2-phase project. But they said priority, we applied for growth money. Well, they said if you had applied for Warm, Safe, and Drive, which is the other category, the high school is by far in worse condition than the Alma Spikes building. But we had to make a decision. We had kids in closets over there, you know, just about. The numbers had grown so much. So that's why we ended up, you know, building the elementary. And then it was so large a number, we had to keep the 4th grade over here. Because that was presented to the state as a K through 4. And just for your information, they don't give you any money for pre-K. We had to pay that 100% off of district. There's no money for pre-K, not facilities.
What about this, because this is, as a member of the community heard, is there any other thing in the works on having the road that loops through the backside of campus, or was that just all never even on the agenda?
No, I mean, we're having conversations with the city, the mayor, and the construction. Clint, thank you, around that, basically building a road back here that connects this direction to the.
We're talking about trading some land that he wants on the highway by the elementary school for him and his land, to where we can connect the 2 schools together.
And that's
And
something too.
the city might pay for it.
I think with the bypass, you know, they could have come into play, the bypass could not be to our benefit, you know. But yeah, we looked at it. I know we looked at it before, just but really was, and they, because of that's so low there, they told us between $3 and $5 million is what they told us. And then it has to be EPA approved.
Well, just one suggestion I've had, again, just talking with people in the community, you know, being the most recent voice in here, is some of these facility plans we need to do. I think you need to do some of the, even though the high school is urgent, and I agree, that's a big fund. Some of the little projects we need to start looking deeper into to show the public that we said we were gonna do this instead of this, like you said earlier, it looks like we're kicking the can down the road all the time. Well, this is feasible, it's not overly expensive, let's do this project and get it done now so the public sees. But we gotta know where this high school's going first, because you don't wanna spend money unnecessarily.
You don't wanna build $100,000 building and
then
tear it down.
Tear it down 3 years from now.
So, and
It's the high school.
and that was the genesis of this plan.
Yep.
So when I first came on the board, I shot an email out, which I wasn't supposed to everyone. And I asked them for their feedback on what needed fixed at all the schools. And the biggest issue was the bathrooms at MD and the junior high. And so that's what we just finished this summer, was 10 bathroom remodels. And that was by far the most complaints, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't here, but you guys.
I remember the list you
And
gave.
so I took about 30 emails, and that was the biggest one, you know.
Is that in-house or is that out?
That was all teachers. And there was a lot of people complaining about not having enough bathrooms at the high school, but guess what? We're not gonna throw money into the high school if we're gonna replace it in 2 years. So I didn't address any of those. But the biggest issue was the bathrooms in these 2 buildings, and that's what we've
See,
started.
there, Chris, what you're talking about, how much we spent in New Orleans?
$500,000.
For,
The
All
foundation.
that foundation work.
It was
Yeah.
only about 200,000, I think.
yeah,
See, there's a,
Yeah.
you know, we had to jack that whole
Sure,
building
no,
out, you know.
But we had $500,000 in the bathroom.
in the bathrooms, yeah.
Yeah, $500,000, the public don't see that. But it's
And-
been done, you know.
You know, it was kind of one of those things, you know, we were all kind of different directions on it. You know, was it too much? I think so, for building bathrooms, but it needed to be done, so we just, you know, we ended up doing it.
And that's the kind of thing that he's trying to do, this 10-year plan is, hey, we can decide if we need to spend $1 million every year for the next 10 years on maintenance. And then we can decide that we have 20 million in our savings account, let's say in 2 years. We can keep 5 million in that for year-to-year stuff, and then we spend 15 on the new high school. So see what we have, what we can budget for new high school, because we don't want to completely deplete our savings to the high school. We want to keep $1 million a year in there for maintenance.
Well, plus the other thing that, you know, was a big factor, you know, we had some more money growth due to the interest rates
Yeah.
of the money that we,
Well,
you know,
and again,
and the
that's-
financial is like this,
Right.
but, you know, if interest rates would stay up, we'd probably have no issue building.
But some of that stuff goes back to communication, because I agree they don't see the foundational work, right? But we have to do the foundation work, because that probably has a little bit of impact on some of the leaks we've had on the roofs and settling and that type of stuff. So you've got to fix the foundational, the roof stuff, because why would I repaint this room if water's leaking in it, right? Because then you're going to turn around and do it again. But once those things are remedied, you know, then you need to start doing some of the cosmetic stuff, because cosmetic stuff usually is the cheapest thing to do, as far as paint, changing out some tile. That's the stuff that the public sees, but we got to communicate. Hey guys, the reason why we get it, the entrance to the junior high doesn't look very nice, but here's why. We've got a water leak. We're working on getting that fixed. It doesn't make sense to do this remodel and make the hallway look nice when it's got water coming in it every time it rains.
Right.
That type of thing.
It's a challenge.
It is.
It's a good,
But I like what Chad said, let's be proactive on these things and let's throw them out there. I mean, it's almost like kids these days in social media, why do they do that for? It's attention, right? I'm not a social media guy, I have it to a certain degree, but I don't put selfies out there, I don't do that. But as a school district, maybe we need to put selfies out
brag on
there
yourself a
to
little.
show the public that we are doing these things, you can't see it.
I think Dr. Arbog's done a really good job in the short time he's been here to change that perception and bring the public in. I think he's done a really, really good job. And, you know, we need to just keep doing it and more of it, but we're headed in the right direction.
I agree.
Get the public in.
The deal we did with the Marshall East community, I mean, to me, I think that's probably the biggest thing. You're not gonna get people to come to you, you're gonna have to go to them.
Right.
Wherever it is they're meeting, even if you can get a big church function that they'll let you come speak to their congregation at a family outing deal they do.
You know, it's like, Chris, you know, had the high school project proposed, you know, we had a public meeting at the community center. And I think we had 15 papers. Okay. 15 papers.
Well, I'm gonna go back to this again. There was too much, there was no transparency, because, you know, a lot of people thought the first millage that went through was to take care of phase 1, phase 2.
All of it.
All of it.
Correct.
Yeah, but Rick, that was made very clear.
It wasn't either.
We don't know how much.
Clear, Gary.
I'll tell you this, I'll tell you this, Mr. Gary, I knew it was done that way, but that was only because I went and talked to a sitting board member and said, why didn't you ask for everything in one whack? And he said, because I didn't know this, because we don't know how much money the state's gonna give us until we actually
And we
ask
don't know
how
how
much.
much the building's
And then
gonna
what we
cost.
didn't wanna do is ask for this flat millage,
Yeah.
and it wasn't enough, and we gotta go back more. Or ask for this flat millage and it's too much, now we just look like we were greedy.
And you're right, but Brandon's right, I do agree. We need to do a better job of
For sure.
presenting that.
For sure.
No matter how good a job we thought we did, I mean, it wasn't.
And listen, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but I still think,
The blame comes back on the board. We should have done better.
when it just boils, all it still boils down to communication, right, at the end of the day.
So in this 10-year plan project timeline you got here, everyone's gonna have a different opinion what we need to prioritize. I think everyone here has a different priority, you know what I mean? I'm gonna look at the barn out there, and I'm gonna stay away from sports. You're gonna lean towards sports. You see what I mean? So how can we? Do you think we should just like all come up with a approximate year we need to accomplish this? We turn them to you, and you kind of figure out based off everybody's opinion. Would that be something?
Well, some of it's education too, because like, my question is, why do we need a new barn? I don't know, I'm asking.
Have you been over there?
I don't.
Go look at it.
I'm not a farmer.
Those are the things.
I mean, every barn I've ever been to looks like crap, so I don't know what to.
I helped build that barn down there whenever I was in high school, so it's pushing its lifespan.
Yeah, there's-
But here's the thing, if you want me, I'm not an FHA guy, I'm a sports guy, right? So one thing I would say about the barn is, I think it's in a terrible location. We have west to east winds for every storm, so I get tired of going to a football game, and it smells like a porta potty the whole time we're out there, you know, like, that type of stuff. So we're rebuilding.
Hey, are you suggesting we build it where the elementary was?
Well, I mean, those are things that, we'll have to discuss.
Well, sure, and some of it just mean learning, because I don't know the layout.
But here's the thing about it, and Chad made a good point, we're all gonna have different ideas. I think that's where we're gonna have to rely on the leadership of our superintendent, which he sees the whole picture.
Sure.
Which is the most important, building a academic facility, a high school, is that the most important? Or is it more important to build the ag-ground one? Those really don't weigh against each other.
Everybody has always tried to tell me that, a new facility will attract your best teachers and more kids. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think I think teachers had rather see a moderate built school and have possibilities of raises. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have your best teachers. I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think a new facility necessarily encourages a teacher to want to come teach there.
I don't think it necessarily encourages the teachers, but I think it encourages the community.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the school gets paid based on the heinies and the seats. And I'm not taking that away from the teachers, but the more heinies in the seats, the more money is available to bring the teachers in.
Well, and I will say this, and, take it for what it's worth, but I've had members of this community who are having, who are responsible or have positions where they're having conversations trying to draw new businesses, new families, and when they talk about education,
Facility, absolutely.
when they talk about education, they show them Black River. They don't show them Pocahontas Public School
And
District.
you throw that out there, and I get it, we're playing in a different sandbox, so to speak, but Sloan Hendricks has basically an entirely brand new school. Maynard's built, half their school is new in the last 10 years. Hoxie's building a brand new elementary school. It's just is what it is, whether we like it or not.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean, in the grand scheme of
You're
it.
exactly right. I mean,
It's
it's not
education.
keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, with the voucher system now, education is more of a business than it ever has been. In my
Well,
opinion.
I mean, it is.
I think you're gonna see schools continually decline with enrollment, long term. I mean, that's just,
Well-
because, I mean, you can have like over at Brooklyn, they setting up this small private school. They got 20 kids there, heck, they're drawing $140,000 a year
Yeah.
on vouchers. Heck, that's pretty good income for some people. To teach 20 kids.
You know, but you're talking about too, Chris, you're talking about Sloan Hendricks has a great school. I spent a lot of time there, but I'm a friend, superintendent's friend of mine. They have a great school, but they operate on 39 units too.
Well, again, that's my point. The community doesn't understand that. They look at Sloan and say, that's why it's our job when we present anything of that nature, is to show them comparisons side by side. You want these things? Here's what it costs. It's either or. Pick your poison. Either have the nice new shiny school that you want and pay for it, or we're not going to raise the millage, then don't gripe about it because we're doing what we can with what we got.
And it really boils down, and when you talk about.
And the voters said no school twice.
Yeah. And when you talk about facilities, though, I think when you get to the point, and I'm going to harp on this till the day I leave here, when you get to the point where your building is unsafe, or your building is, a teacher cannot utilize that classroom because the electrical system is shot, you need to do something. And that's the way we are at the high school right now.
I mean, you see what I do for a living. I don't know how we got away with going to high school as long as we have with the 88 issue.
It's a matter of just being able to, have school the way you're supposed to. There's no chandeliers, there's no fancy stuff. It's just the basic necessities. Having an electrical system that works right, having a heating system works right, and not having a ton of asbestos over your head, and if the ceiling fell like it did before, kid's gonna get hurt, or you've exposed asbestos.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go back to this. The elementary school was not built economical.
No,
No, the new one.
there's.
What's the ceilings in it? 14, 15
Hey,
foot?
it's just that when it started. We changed all that. All those hallways.
That's still even too high.
That was because it was a cost plus contract. It was basically the architects making a percentage of the cost of the building, and I completely disagree with those kind of
Well, that was.
designs.
This right here is more than ample height for a classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It's just not
always-
as modern like as they like.
When that was, there was no ceilings anywhere. It was all open. We brought ceilings in for cost,
So this is what I would propose. I would say everybody needs to spend a little homework and kind of figure out like I just went through here and I took off the Alma Spikes demolition because we were already doing it. I've got parking lot upgrades, $500,000. I do think over the next 10 years we will spend that easy. Junior high repair, I threw $50,000 for the roof, not $1.6 million, because this is a standing seam roof. It's supposed to last for 50 years. I would only spend $50,000 on it and you're already on the process of spending money on it by repairing it. The cooking area, we can get local people. I'll donate the $3,000 for the Vinahood, for the cooking at the, stuff like that. 88, yeah, $200,000, that's fine. So then I've got.
You say you were going to donate a new high school?
No.
That's what you said? Did we catch that?
I circled the demolition of $1 million. I circled the $25 million high school. I dropped the new administration building down to $2 million because I can build you a heck of a building for $2 million. You know what I mean, for administration. I think 4.5 is just too much.
Well, you don't want to put down too little.
What's that?
You don't want to put too little.
Yeah, but you can do a lot with $1 million. So I got $50,000 for to remodel the roof of the MD Williams. Same principle, the leaks. I think $50,000 to fix those leaks instead of, because guess what? We have a brand new elementary school, and guess what? There's already leaks in it, right? And so I don't want to replace these roofs because guess what? We're going to continue to have leaks because the people nowadays putting on these standing seam jobs are not as experienced as they were 20 years ago. And they're going to find these leaks. I crossed off the foundation repairs because we've already done it. I put $1 million in the remodel of the baseball dugouts. I think $4.5 million is just too much. I put $1 million for a new maintenance transportation shop. I think that would get a really nice transportation shop. I put $300,000 for an agriculture building. I got $5 million for the junior high remodel instead of $22 million. I think $5 million would go a long ways. I wouldn't even do that for another 7 to 8 years though. So you add all that together. I did $1 million for energy efficient upgrades. That comes to $37 million over the next 10 years. That's counting the high school. I mean, I think that is something I would. Now you guys can come up with your own figures, but and then Dr. Arbuckle can kind of figure out something that we all agree on and come up with a plan.
That's not my area. I'm not gonna be able to come with those figures because I don't know how much construction materials cost, and that's just not my realm.
Well, it's all in a budget. It's like
Sure.
For instance, the maintenance shed. Yeah, you can put $4 million for a maintenance shed, or $2 million for a maintenance shed, but is it really what they need? You know what I mean? I'm sure the plan. I think everybody's kind of in agreement that it'd be good to put the maintenance shed maybe behind the elementary school or something out of here, and then move the agri barn over there where it's at, where it's out of the mud. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thinking.
I'll be honest with you. I think the least important information on there is the cost.
Yeah.
So
we just want the plan there.
I put whatever cost we want to put on it because I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah. Well, just putting out if you put out to the public $73 million, it's just going to freak people out.
I'm okay with that. I don't mind.
Because guess what? When 5 years from now, cost could be 3 times as much, and it doesn't matter what we put down.
It could be. That's right.
But I think putting a little bit. Somebody's going to look at it and be like, $4.5 million for new softball fields. That's ridiculous. I think a lot of people are going to do that. Why do I even give money to the school if they're going to just spend $4.5 million on these?
That would be, by the way, that would be what I can't remember which district it was. Thank you. That's what they spent to move their field.
Well, this is
from one place.
remodeling. You have remodeling on here, don't you?
I don't know.
Well, it says remodeling
I'll
here.
have to go back and look. Then,
It says.
I tried to put the like.
Well, I can imagine moving it. Yeah.
I reached out and said, okay,
It
tell me
says
what.
remodel baseball dugouts, concessions, bathroom, and press box, along with new lighting. And potential relocation of fields. So that's something that I don't think we need to do because of the high
Unless you use
cost.
that space.
Exactly.
Right. That's what Chris was talking about earlier.
And I'll be honest with y'all, I've always been in favor of, not displacing our kids. If we can do kind of like we did with the elementary school, build a new facility over there and it doesn't disrupt anything as far as, I'm in favor of that. It's not always going to be feasible, but I am in favor, like you said, build a new facility before, we get rid of the old.
Now, the only problem I will say is if you go with that model during the construction process, you probably are going to have some parking issues that you're going to have to come up with temporary because some of the parking lots going to get eaten up as you're building the new building.
Well, that's another reason. We were, and Craig was instrumental in this, we were gonna be able to use that science wing while we were doing construction because it was so close in proximity.
Right.
Otherwise, that helped them, because they came up with a plan to keep all the kids on the campus.
And I'm sure this is a thorn in everybody's side, but I've heard so many different rumors. So what's the whole deal with the fairgrounds over here anyway?
Nothing.
We can't buy it.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
So I'll give you the quick and dirty.
The
like 2 minutes.
35-year ordeal with the fairgrounds.
Well, I've been here probably maybe September, and I was told that if we wanted to buy the fairgrounds, they'd sell it at $4 million. That's what it was going to cost. Well,
Somebody
That's
told me
not
over
feasible,
some
but
10 million.
How big is it? How far back?
It's 19 acres.
That's not even-
They told me 10 million over the phone.
So,
But who owns it?
The Fair Board.
The actual fair board?
Well-
I was understanding the family owned it.
they,
It reverts back to the.
it reverts
It's
back
kinda
if they
have
ever
a
walk away
lifetime
from
right.
it. But yeah, they've got it for as long as
So
they
what the
want.
fair board's pricing the land as what the land's gonna cost them to move,
Yes,
To
and
build
build
new
everything.
not the
else.
value of it. There's nothing over there worth $4 million.
No,
Even if you built new, it wouldn't cost that much to move what they.
even the 19 acres there is not worth that kind of money.
It would revert back to John Dalton, and he's already said that, hey, I'd be willing to sign it over to the school if it reverted back to me, so.
But they've got to voluntarily give it up first.
Well, there was a plan at one time, back whenever the county was kind of interested the first time with Alma. They went out and looked at the Ridgewell. Because I just told the judge whenever he come to me, I said, we need the fairgrounds. I said, if y'all think y'all can use the Alma, I said, find another location. And they looked at the old Ridgewell furniture out here, so far as a possible area for the fairgrounds to go to. And, they just balked, and it all fell apart. But, that was a scenario that was talked about.
So, and I'm just asking this question because I don't know the answer. What if the school did inherit the ground in this scenario? What's the deal with leasing it out or renting it out for a fee to the county fair people when they, because the county
We
fair's
wouldn't
here once a
inherit it
year.
unless we paid them for it.
But what I'm saying is the fairgrounds is only here once a year. The fairs, that's it. That's all it get used for, once a year.
Well, they use it a couple times a year for a rodeo.
But they're not
Right,
gonna,
but my point is that if the school's in control of it, right? It's not like the dates that the fair board needed to use it would really contradict anything that we needed it for. Is there not some kind of arrangement that could be made there?
Well, what we would do is we would demolish everything.
Not that,
on the property.
not that they're willing to entertain, from me anyway.
So they just want to own the ground or have the rights to the ground and use it 3 times a year, even though it's because my problem is, I'll be honest, when I moved here, I was like, I can't believe they have carnivals during the day with the type of individual that works at carnivals. I mean, some of those people probably can't even be that close to a school either.
Yeah.
That's one of those, from my understanding, that's one of those, it's been that way for 35 years and it'll be that way for another
Well-
35.
My idea was I wanted them to buy property up behind the Manor Pioneer. Somebody acquire some ground there, put the county fair with the Manor Pioneer days. They have a heck of a
That would be,
turnout.
that's the best idea I've ever, that would be
I mean, this is
great.
not even a county fair anymore. Like,
No.
it's-
But the problem is, we've been trying to purchase it. I've been on the board almost 30 years. We were really close at the time we thought, and it all fell through. So we've never been able to accomplish it, and we've tried continuously, you don't want to sell, I mean, it's just got to the point where,
they think they've got a gold mine there.
I don't think you need.
Unless I went to them
I
and
don't
said, "Hey,
think we need to figure it in our 10 years facility.
Well, no, I get it. But they want this absorbent price, but do they understand that the money, if we did choose to purchase it at $4 million, it's their money we're buying it with. It would be taxpayer dollars. I mean, do you not understand
Well, the Fair Board is not, they're.
they're still citizens of this
Yeah, I
town.
know.
I mean,
I would have to go to them and say, hey, this is what, you can replace this, all
You're
this.
gonna
I'm
need
willing to do
several
it
new
for $1.5 million,
members.
and we'll give you $1.5 million if I can replace what you got for $1.5 million.
There's gonna be, have to
That's
be
what's gonna happen
changes of
if they get their
members.
drop their money, because they think that it's gonna take $4 million. He threw out $10 million to me over the phone, which was, what's the main guy? Dennis Hutzel?
Doug.
Doug, yeah. So, but he was just, that was his starting
well,
figure.
I mean, my point was, is like if we're doing the new FFA barn or whatever, and you had that ground, you could put it all together and then work something out with them to where, hey, we can work together on this. And now, because I'll be honest with you, the FFA barn needs to be on that side of the football field, so when the wind blows, it blows the other way. Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, the community over here is not gonna matter whether the barn's there or the barn's there. It's gonna be the same smell for them regardless. I mean,
It might be a little bit
stronger. It might be a little stronger, but, it's no different than when the rodeo's there, I guess.
But I think, getting back to, kind of what we're talking, I think those are discussions that, we would have with them, but I think laying a plan out is to, a direction we want to go, I think would be beneficial to us, it would be to me, you know, as far as the district, you know, this is where we want to go facility-wise. But, you know, we're going to expect the superintendent to lead us in the direction we need to go. Because that's your job.
Right. Yep, okay. So, I mean, I think what we'll do is we'll continue to work on the strategic plan. We'll continue to look at because there are some things that are on that facilities plan that I don't necessarily want to remove. I want to mark done. Right, so that there's things that are seen that we're making progress.
Let me ask this, we come back to the building. So the old plans had to be scrapped, right? Because that building's not being built. So when is it that we're bringing the new, are we gonna wait until we get the number from the state before we bring new contractors out?
That is complete, I mean, that's up to the board.
That's what I've all been for, is wait till April and then we'll figure out how to go from there.
You know, my thing is, I'm not totally against the set of plans that they had the first time. You know, because we did have $500,000 or so in all of that already. You know,
But that's not usable because the building is gonna be 20,000 square feet
If we're gonna bring it back out new, like, I want two versions, like, give us a version of how much it costs to build the school without interrupting the current school. And tear it down afterwards, but connect it all together, right? And then do it the way y'all had originally talked about doing it.
And here's what I'll tell you, the architect will do whatever you want to pay them for.
Yeah.
So if you want, I mean, if they draw one, if they draw two, they're gonna charge, yeah, I mean.
Chris, and the other reason, I mean, that's the main reason, it was cheaper to build there. But, see, there had to be an auditorium then, that was required by the state. And then a gym. The way the land lays out there was a lot cheaper to build that, and you could put it all in one piece. And so we were bringing all these other buildings in. All the kids would be in that building except business and agri. Is that right, Chris? So that was really a focus. All that, you couldn't do that anywhere else in the campus. You know, just the footprint of it. And that was by utilizing the space that the cafeteria sits now. And that, you know what controversy that caused. And that was the main reason. But see, the way it was done is a really good plan. Of course, we don't do the cafeteria, the auditorium now. But now, see, the gym, there's certain criteria you've got to meet. It's got to be 1,800 seats, or you can't qualify for any tournaments or anything like that. Highlands is about 2,200 seats. It cost them $8 million 17 years ago. You know, so the way we're set up here, it'd be a lot cheaper because, you know, we're not building out in the middle of a big field. Right. You know, we've already got utilities right here, and there's a lot of pluses. But, you know, that's here to there. But getting back to what we kind of talked about is if we propose a high school and a gym with the option of, you know, being able to split those if the cost was just too much. We got to build what we can afford. That's what it amounts to. So that's kind of, but all that, you know, we can discuss. The way, it's a really complicated process. What to do, they will, if they release, if they approve us for that money, they approve it, but you don't get it till the next. If they approved it in May, you don't get it till the next May. So that's the way they used to be. You had a 2-year ban, they did it. I don't know if they're still doing it or not that way.
Well,
that's what we did for.
That could be.
We do a year in advance where we're going to get it, but we didn't get it till the next year. But we went ahead and made our plans, and you know, you got to get the architect come in, and you know, you got. It's a complicated.
Well, with the surplus of money we have, will we not have the money to get the building started, waiting on that money to come in? Because we have the 17.
Well, I think they were waiting until the school year was over to start.
Here, so the way the timeline works right now, the way I understand it, is they'll tell us in May, they'll confirm. In essence, the Tim Kaine and the that group down there with facilities and transportation, they've told me that it looks like we're in line, if it's approved, to get about $7.5 million for the building.
And that's based on where you put in this one, we were 38 on 900.
Right,
So
right.
this is what I propose. We take 15 million from savings. We have 8 million. I've already forgotten where the 8 million came from. 7 million comes in from the state. Oh no, I'm sorry. 8 million comes from the state. 7 million borrowed. We could potentially spend 30 million on a high school, but we'd have to do bonds for $7 million.
So I mean, I would like, and this is part of that conversation. I'd like to start having some sort of what if conversations sooner than later. Right? I mean, because I already know, I've been told this is what you can expect. Now it's not solid until they come back to us in April and say, so it's kind of like you're taking a chance on, they're saying 7.5 million. They might come back and go, well, the legislature cut, $100 per square feet. And so instead of 7.5 million, you're going to get 6 million. They could, on the flip side, during this legislative session, say, okay, we're going to increase the per square foot funding from $385, which is what it's at right now, to $410. Well, now our $7.5 million goes up by, 70,000 or 35,000 square feet times 15 times 30. So now you're getting a little bit more money. We won't know until the legislative session is over.
I think
we need to start having some conversations.
Well, that's
right
now.
now.
Get Michael McBride to come in, and give us some guidance on what we can afford. He's our financial.
I think if they're going to give us $3 million for high school, we're probably going to guarantee to get $5 million for the rest of the high school. So I can see $8 million being our pretty good figure.
One thing about it, Chad, of that building fund, remember, we always need to keep.
Well, think about it. If we don't finish the building for 3 years from now, which is probably realistic, if we don't kick it off for a year and a half from now, we'll have $3 million in there more. We've got 17 now. We keep 2. We added 3, so we're going to have $5 million now. Depending on our maintenance per year, that's another issue. But I don't think we'll if we took 15 out of it, I don't think it's going to hurt us.
Well, I understand that it's failed twice, but sitting board members, what y'all's take on trying to go after it?
Well, did you see what it? So everybody, it's in the election every year, right? Every time we have did you see how many people voted against the one that came out? Because it doesn't matter what they do, but it should give us a representative of people that are voting for or against it. Because
the only thing
lost by 38 votes.
The only thing I'm going to disagree with you on then is people are pushing on that and they have no idea what they're voting on. But my caveat to that was, now, and this is just my opinion coming on with, again, people I've talked to in the school district, a millage increase is no longer just about the high school, in my opinion. It's also about the LEARNS Act did what it did with teacher salaries. It gives us the ability to go back and take care of the faculty and the staff going forward. Because even if you don't build a new school, right? We had another thing put on our plate financially by the LEARNS Act with teacher salaries that weren't accounted for in the budget before.
I don't think people in the community even know about that hardly.
It goes back to communication.
They're going to look at it.
But guess who's members of this community?
Well,
everybody that teaches in these halls.
Well, I feel like a large percentage of the reason it failed is because farmers are a big player in there. We're not even helping our kids out in the future farmers of America here. If we're not even putting money into all we do is sheep, and we need to have a lot better program for that if our farmers in the area are going to help out with a school, because if we don't put any money into our,
it's a lot better than it was, I can tell you that.
If we don't put any money into our FFA program that is funded, that farmers want to have here, right? The farmers are the ones that shoot these millage increases down. I'm against it.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'll also say there's not enough farm landowners to vote it down. There's way more people in the community.
But they have influence with other people. Yeah.
They do, but the farmer can't tell me what to do voting wise. I'm going to vote for what I think is best.
What it really boils down to is each individual. How do you value the kids in your community?
I'm not just talking farmers. I'm talking chicken farmers too.
No, I agree.
And so there's a lot of people with chicken farmers and relatives and
Well,
stuff.
but I also think it's, again, goes without communication. That the average Joe, when I say, I'm gonna increase your taxes because I'm increasing your millage, what does that really mean? Because if you go up 2.5 mils on a house that's a $250,000 house, and that's all the property they have is their house and the ground that it sits on, their millage isn't gonna change enough to matter. But if all those people knew that it's not gonna change much, those people are likely to vote yes. And the big landowners are gonna vote no.
But that's all, I mean, that's all put out there, as examples.
Well, I mean, you say it is, but I'm one who was invested in the last two go-rounds, and I knew none of that. So if I was invested and I didn't know, how does anyone they got kids in the school, but they don't really pay that much attention. But when they go to the voting booth, they say, I'm not voting for a tax increase.
I'll tell you.
And I just don't have
Well, like what Brett said, maybe we need to do a better job of educating.
I think
Transparency.
I think the people that are voting are a majority homeowners or large landowners. The people that rent, they do not vote. I feel like that's the truth.
I'm not gonna disagree with you on that either.
So the majority of the ones that are in school are probably the ones that are renting, and if
But
they're-
then it goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? Show the public that we're doing something. Would you propose the FFA building barn is gonna cost $500,000? I'm not saying it would cost that much, maybe we could do it cheaper, but. maybe something
Well,
like that's an investment in the
I think,
community that goes a long way.
again, I'm gonna go back to, I think it has a lot to do with the plan, because there's a lot of things, like, we can want a new agri barn. I think we need new agri facilities, but right now, where are you gonna put it?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you gotta have a plan, you gotta play some chess and say, okay, if I move this here, then this can go here, and this can, we can do this here.
So the point is, that we're all in agreement that the high school is pretty much the number one priority of the school district, as far as the building construction goes. So until that's in place and we know where the building is gonna sit, all this other stuff has to sit on hold, because you can't upgrade something, you're like, man, if we hadn't done that, we could have.
I totally agree.
Our counties, and another thing, as far as if we look at having to have a millage, there's nothing saying our county is in kind of dire straits right now with their budgeting. They've been talking about raising millage. And, you go to putting a millage on, the calendar every year, and people are to the point they're tired of being taxed to death. I think that's what it all boils down to, is everybody's like, why am I having to pay for everything?
I agree. Well, here's the thing I brought up with Dr. Arbuckle when we had this conversation. So if I'm a large landowner, this is an option that maybe we can talk to some of these people and get at. Well, the only way we can keep from being, I'm just throwing this out, $5 million. Who wants to throw money in? Because if I'm a large landowner, my millage goes up 2.5. Over 20 years, it's gonna cost me how much in taxes? I'd just rather write you a check for $2.5 million, and here's my money towards it.
I don't think people are gonna do it.
Well, I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they will, but my point is, you have an option.
Yeah.
So, but if we push the millage out and it passes through, well then you could have got out for $2.5 million, now welcome to paying your $5 because you didn't want to do that.
Yeah, they're not gonna do it for like a high school, because they realize that the state is terribly inefficient and they spend way too much money on stuff. But if you do something like, hey, you wanna contribute towards part of the agri barn because you're in, Pico's gonna contribute to half of the agri barn, or the cell
That's what I
barn.
mean. I don't mean just throw your numbers.
Yeah.
I mean like, I'm just throwing out Craig Greenfield, and he gives us the money to put new
Yeah,
turf out
that,
there.
if you have a specific project.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If
Individual
they
projects.
wanna throw 100,000 to,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff you could get raised money for, but if you just say, hey, we're
No,
raising money for the high school.
I don't mean it as just throw your money in the bucket. I mean, this is now
Yeah.
Gary Cole
I mean,
FFA barn.
I think, and I could be totally misreading everything, but I think at the basic level, you have to help people understand that money spent on education and facilities of education is an investment in your community. That's what you have
In
to
the
help them.
future.
That's what you have to help them understand, because there are a lot of communities in Arkansas that used to have schools that don't have schools right now. And I'm not saying we're in danger of losing it. I'm just saying that as the school is successful, towns are successful. As the school is not successful, towns are not successful. That's,
When you go back to tax dollars, Brent, I mean, I could say this, I'm not saying education is the most efficient use of money, because they're probably not, but some of that state mandated, we have no control. But I can tell you there's a lot of my tax dollars that go to a lot of places that I don't want them to go, and I have no say-so over it.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So
But
at
I
least
think
with
you're-
your tax dollars here, you're investing in your kids, right?
But I think the bottom line is, it's like, say, you know, and, you know, it was during COVID.
Sure.
People were struggling. You know, one of my concerns was, are we even gonna need a school? Because at that time, they were all trying to go to, you know, just the online learning and, you know, different things, you know, because there was so many different agendas. But I really just think people they're just fed up with taxes.
I agree. But the flip side of that still is, I don't think it's ever been done with an informed deal, explaining to them exactly why. Give them comparisons to us and surrounding school districts to show, hey, you like their stuff? Well, they get more money than we do. And that's why they have the nice shiny stuff. And then now when you put it out, and we know that we put all the information out there, and they say no, y'all say no.
I thought they did a pretty good job of letting it out in the community. I came to a couple of your meetings. I was against the millage increase, but if you didn't want to know about it, I mean, if you didn't know about it after you guys did all your stuff, you were pretty much just not paying attention.
Yeah, I know you were,
And-
yeah, you're not talking.
And so,
I thought that was presented for
yeah,
me.
and I know, I do all kinds of
We had all
advertising,
the
and I can
problems.
advertise $10,000 a month, and then someone walk up to me, I didn't know you had a cafe in here. You know what I mean? And-
But the only thing is, though, where I'm gonna disagree with Mr. Gary. Mr. Gary said we had an open forum. They're not gonna come. You have to go to them. That's just a
Well, then you
fact.
spend advertising, who's gonna, you know,
I mean, I get it. It's effort on our part, or Dr. Arbuckle's part, or whoever's gonna be the spokesperson at these events. But you've gotta go where people are gathered in the community.
Well, and we had
And
some
present it
come
to
out
them.
to elementary, you know, I was talking about the one we had over
Right.
at the community center with all the, drawings and everything, where everybody could see.
Sure.
But, you know, architect was there, our financial advisor was there, of course, our administration, all the board was there to answer any questions. And it was really a pretty good meeting, and we did have several people come, and there was a lot of good information put out there.
Well, I mean, but the, you know,
What
again, you're
else
talking
can
about
you do, you know?
one big event. It might be where you have to go to 8 different events where there's 150, 200 people. And that's it. And I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying this is what you have to do, but like, for instance, when you do, during orientation evening, or like when the football team gets together to have their parent night. I mean, there's 40, 50 kids on the team. You got 100 parents in there. Why not bring it up then? It doesn't have to be anything super, you know, an hour conversation, but a 20-minute presentation to inform
Well,
them.
those are some things, you know, I mean, that's,
Because again, I just think it came down to
you always
communication.
can learn from, you know, what
Right.
you've done before and get better. And,
And I'm not knocking anything in
but
the
I
past.
think
Again,
when
I'm just saying, just
I'd
communication.
say the critical thing we've got across as a board is first of all, we gotta decide, or we can find out whether or not we're gonna get some money, how much, and then we gotta come up with a general idea of what this square footage building is gonna cost. And at the same time, while the architect and the construction company are working on that, we've got to work as a board to see how much money can we come up with, what are we comfortable with, you know? And then if there is a millage, what would that millage look like?
Because, I mean, Chad, this is your department, but I would assume that if the money was right and you could get some of these other little side projects going at the same time, the construction companies will kind of cut you a deal because you're like, well, that would cost $500 by itself, but since we're already here, we can do it for $350 because all the
Well,
equipment's already here.
You see, they can't do it, it all has to be,
Yeah.
all this has to be bid through the state.
No,
Chris, I'll be honest with you, and I was shocked, the first project I was involved was a bus garage. They tell you every nail that's gonna go in it, and what size nail and what color it is. You know, it's, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Sure. But see, again, that's communication where I think the public needs to know, well, why does it cost so
Yeah.
much? And here's how detailed the state makes us do these
It's
things.
just, I know James Ray Chester and I went down to Hoxie, looked at a same size building, and they built it like $150,000. This would cost $1.5 million. But what we didn't take into account is school building. Is there some fluff there? You betcha. There's nothing to do about it. There's nothing you can do about it.
What else you got? I'm fixing to go.
Okay, so this, I don't think this will take long. I guess I want some input. So, last year we reworked the sick leave and volunteer sick leave policies, and I included them just for to take a look at, and we tightened those up.
Right.
I have looked at those as a policy that would come into place when there is a catastrophic illness, and it defines what that is. What I'm finding is, it seems like, and I've had four requests this semester for employees who want access to the catastrophic leave for a variety of reasons. And, I brought you I brought you two, one that we approved. And what I'm figuring out is, I think our staff is looking at this as a de facto short-term disability policy. That's really how I think from a staff standpoint we're looking at it. And so I guess I'm looking to you guys, I'm looking to some conversation, however long you want it to be, about do we, should I be looking at this policy as a de facto short-term disability policy where, I'm off for some reason, I'm going to be off, and I'm needing this time to, in essence, pay my bills, right? Rather than a stopgap. It's a stopgap because I'm out, and not necessarily a stopgap because, I have some kind of catastrophic issue. And you'll notice, we in that catastrophic, we were very clear on examples of catastrophic illness or injury include serious debilitating illness, impairment, and or physical mental condition that involves treatment in connection with an extended stay in a hospital, hospice, or a residential facility, and high intensity, high frequency of treatment encounters necessary for a chronic or long-term condition so serious that if not treated would likely result in a prolonged period of incapacity or death. The requests I get are 4 out of 5 times seem to be, I want access, or I'm asking for access, again, a short-term disability. And I've looked into it, when I provide access to catastrophic for a classroom teacher, I ran it today, it's $9,500 to the district. That's what it costs us if they access all 30 days. On a classified staff, you cut that in half, so it's about $5,000, $4,500 to $5,000.
How many times a year do you, or would you, if teachers expected to use it every time they asked you, how many times?
Well, it would have been four times this semester, so roughly 8 times a year.
So $100,000. 90 at least.
And so, right now I'm pretty. I'm looking at it. I'm going, okay, that doesn't meet one of those two line items, and I think that's the right place to be. In part, I guess I'm going to look maybe at the institutional side. You got that historical knowledge, Gary, on the intent of this policy. Is the intent to help everybody who asks, because we've had different different reasons that people have asked that I wouldn't, I have not been catastrophic. They don't meet that policy.
No,
I don't think we're any different than any other employer, is the way I feel about it.
When did you come up with a catastrophic? Because I don't have a catastrophic.
I don't have.
Catastrophic policy was pre-existed me. I mean,
Do we have to have one?
I think it's a state requirement now, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I could go back in and see.
We've always had
Let me back up. In previous districts I've been in, they've always had this kind of policy. Sometimes they call it a sick bank policy. Now, this district at some point separated and said, catastrophic policy is for the employee, sick bank is for the employee's spouse, sibling, child. But for other districts I've been a part of, the sick bank covers, both. So it's one policy that covers the employee and the employee as caregiver. In our district, we have the same policy called two different things, one that applies to the employee and one that applies to the employee as caregiver.
Do you think people are not reading that when they're asking for it, so far as
Their interpretation of catastrophic is different.
Are they not making, it's going to be on every situation is going to be case by case basis.
I think that the way I interpret this policy is probably a little bit more strict than the way it has historically been applied.
Okay.
And that's sort of why I'm asking the question.
He's the first one
because-
to, in the last 5 to 7 years, has actually officially enforced the policy, I think is what it boils down to, right?
I don't know, because I wasn't here before me. But what I'm trying to
Well,
figure,
the majority of our emails we've received are about this subject, right? Like from teachers that are like complaining about you, right? Right?
I don't know.
We've
You
got
guys are
two,
getting
right?
complaints, I don't know.
And it's because, hey, I should have got some money for this, and then, this is a big issue of mine, and
Can you give examples on one that you did say, hey, I did prove this is catastrophic versus one that you're saying is not, that you don't consider catastrophic?
Or you give a hypothetical.
Well, hypothetical, yeah.
So, I would, let's say an individual,
I'm football coach, and I want to petition you for whatever you say. So what am I going to say?
You need to show them repair.
You broke your foot or your knee. You've been dealing with your knee for 3 years, and now it's time to get your knee replaced, and your doctor tells you you're going to be, need to be off your leg. You're going to be off for 6 weeks. I want catastrophic. Well,
Okay, but now, would that be called elective surgery?
That is 100% elective procedure.
Yeah.
During COVID, I'm just using that as an
And so,
example.
but-
Total joints got bumped because they are elective procedures. Even if, and I'm just saying this from my professional experience, even if it is physically limiting you or handicapping you with your ability to ambulate, it is still an elective procedure.
and the way the old policy was written, before we changed it, the way the old policy was written, it said that you could apply for catastrophic if you were immobile. Okay?
Yeah, but I would argue, I'm just saying, I would argue on that, if I'm immobile because of my knee, I can't walk, I can still get in a wheelchair, they're still mobile. I mean,
But see, that's so we narrowed it. I narrowed it that last year. I worked with PPC and narrowed it to this. And my expectation was, okay, this seems to be
It's going to stop a lot of the requests.
right. And you're still, I still get doctor's notes that says, because it says in here, prolonged period of incapacity or death, right? If I don't have my knee worked on, and I never had my knee worked on, then I could be disabled and now I'm prolonged incapacity. And so, I mean, those are the things that I'm working
You're opening Pandora's box on that, 'cause on an elective procedure, what I would do is schedule my surgery the week after school's out, by the time school starts back, you're fine.
Now, here's
But they have to give up their summer to do that.
But they don't want to do that.
I know, because they have to give up their summer.
so,
I've had teachers do that, but they did it on Christmas break. They took PTO the last week before Christmas, did it over Christmas break, and they were functional enough to come back to school after that.
Well, I think what you're really asking is, are you being too restricted?
am I,
Well, how many sick days do we have on the calendar? I mean, do you give people
well, you give them every year, you give them 10
10
sick days.
sick days?
And they can build up.
But that's separate from their PTO.
What if we eliminated the catastrophic and we made it 13 days a year, or whatever, something like that would.
Yeah, here's what I find
But I think
is,
you're gonna go back to the state, you have to have a catastrophic plan, do you not?
well, I mean, again, I'd have to look at the model policies. I didn't look at the model policy on that. This is just one that, but where I would go with that is, my experience is that the reason I'm asking for catastrophic is because I get 10 every year, but the total number of sick days I have left over right now is 2. Well, what that tells me is we're burning our sick days every single year. And in fact, if I've got 2 sick days left over right now, then I burned 8 of my sick days in the first half of the school year. You see where I'm going? And so, yeah, I mean, to me, there's this, okay, well, it's elective. Obviously, though, a doctor said, I mean, I'm getting doctor's notes that said they had to have their knee replaced right now, or they had to have whatever it was right now, and it's catastrophic. I mean, they use that term. Well, so I'm not looking at that. I'm going back to, because I've made phone calls to doctors and said, okay, tell me, I mean, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Some of them call me back, some of them don't. I mean, I'm really trying to put a lot of effort into making sure that we're abiding by the policy. And again, where I come back to is, I feel like I'm probably enforcing this policy at a certain level, and that may or may not be the spirit of the original policy.
Well, after some of those, you wasn't here for some of the discussions that we had, it was like, no, there's no way. Honestly, keep enforcing is what
Now, I will say
Well,
this.
it creates an issue with some of these people that have been here a while and they've gotten around, 5 years ago they had another one and they let it go.
Well, I can honestly say, you asked me a question in the past, just off the top of my head, we very rarely, I'd say we've gone years and not had any. It's just in the last few years that
it's going to continue. Well, it's
Now, we have had,
post-COVID.
I remember one particular lady, our teacher was in a car accident. Certainly, but I don't ever remember people even, I didn't even know the policy existed.
Have you talked to Blackston down here about it? He may give you some advice on what is catastrophic, because he may have let it go for 10 years and a broken leg or a broken arm was catastrophic to him, and that's why we kind of had to push back.
Well, last year,
Broken bones is a different creature. That's an accident.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a break bad enough to where you're immobile for 4 weeks. I mean, that's just.
If somebody came to you with a broken arm, are you going to give them catastrophic?
I've had someone come to me on a broken ankle, and I didn't give them catastrophic.
There you go. That's probably what the pushback is.
Yeah, but I would argue on that, because what I do for a
Because he
living.
interprets it as yes, it is.
What kind of broken ankle we talk about? Is this ORIF? Was there internal fixation? Because the difference is, while they're a teacher and they can sit in the classroom, I'm telling you from a healing perspective, you're setting them back by forcing them to go back to the classroom.
I mean, maybe you're being too strict on it.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, here's where I'm at.
Now-
I broke and dislocated mine. I've got a plate and 8 screws in it. I did it on a Saturday with my son. had surgery, had it all repaired. I was back at work Tuesday. Against doctor's advice, but I wasn't sitting at the house then.
Yeah, but look what you just said, against doctor's advice, and I would advise you against it too, and your job is different because you can come and go as you please, the
Right.
teacher cannot.
Right.
I mean, what about broken bones and major surgeries? I mean, will that work?
I mean,
I mean, my point is a total joint is a different creature because it is elective. You can put that on. No doctor's going to say, you must do that right now. Because I've had doctors tell people that and they walk out of their office and say, I'm not doing it. You can't make them do it. But if someone steps off the porch, breaks their ankle, I mean, it was a total accident. They were taking the trash out and they had to have surgery. I would tell you this, I mean, and it could have been in April, and yeah, they got pneumonia back in the fall, and they used 8 of their 10 sick days. I mean, I wouldn't want to hold them where they're not getting a paycheck because they had an accident. But that's just my take.
I'd say you just keep doing it case by case basis
And that's what
and make
I would
the
say.
best informed decision you can.
And, I mean, I don't know where else you want to go, but I don't know if that's what we're available for or not, as far as consultation on
I don't
asking.
think we
Well, I think that's the way, I know it's the way Darrell did it, is just, you know, case by case.
and that's the way we're doing it. I mean, I'm looking at this and applying,
I have no problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, a broken foot, they go in a boot, you know, maybe they need to be off a week and then come back to school. But I mean, there is a different situation if they have surgery and the doctor has to put pins and screws in there. That's just a different killing creature. It just is.
I know that puts the burden on you, but I really, you know, don't really know what else to do.
no, I
It
mean,
seems
I
like
don't-
it's a contentious issue, though. You know, if we turn down 2 people this year, they may decide not to stick it out for another couple of years. They're like, forget it. I put 20 years into this school, and they didn't even want to give me an extra 30 days. You know, because
But
I
it's
broke-
not, when they take catastrophic, they don't have to take all 30 days. They're just applying for up to 30 days, correct?
Tuesday 30, isn't it?
up to the 30 days.
Yeah.
But what that means is,
They ain't coming
once
back
I
for
get
30.
it, if I want my 30 days, I got 30 days.
I've got 30 days.
And it's one of those things where it comes back where you can't be too hard on employees in these days and ages, because guess what? They will
And I would
leave
say
you.
this, if you have a doctor using that surgery, you know, after a broken ankle or whatever, I mean, they're definitely gonna be able to get a doctor to write them off for the 30 days, I can promise you that. That's not gonna be, because the surgeon, at the end of the day, I'm trying to protect my surgery because that's got my name on it. That's the way they look at it. So what's it to them if the school district's paying out the extra money for the 30 days?
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, when you look at it, it's somewhere between $500 and $9,500
Yeah.
to the district. I mean, I also want to be careful of it because in essence, that's a $5,000 raise for that person that year.
Yeah.
Whether it was an accident or whether it was a planned thing or once we say yes, then in essence, I mean, we granted, I'm not going to say gifted, but we granted that person what it's costing to us because we're having to pay benefits, we're having to pay, you know, taxes and all that. It's going to be a minimum of $5,000 to us.
Well, you wouldn't really look at that. You would look at the replacement cost for that, who fills in for that month at $160 a day or whatever you pay.
That's on top of because it's a paid day off. I mean, it's a paid sick day.
Yeah, but
So I'm paying them to stay
you're already
home.
going to pay them a normal wage. So really, what you can't look at that employee's cost.
But you're
you
not,
look at replacement.
because the idea is I'm asking for catastrophic so I can have a paid sick day. Otherwise, I'm not fulfilling my contract and it's a docked day off. It's an unpaid day, right? So I'm paying
But if they had come to work, you would have still been out that money. How much did you replace that person for that?
No, I wouldn't been out that money.
If they'd come to work, you would have paid their normal pay.
Yeah, because they came to work.
Yeah.
But if they don't come to work, then, and
All
they don't have.
all you're out more money is the replacement for that person during that day.
No, because I'm
And
paying
the
them,
days they're asking
I'm
if they
paying
don't
them
have
for the
it.
sick day. So it's in essence, instead of you getting 10 sick days this year, I'm gonna give you 40. Well, those extra 30 days are costing me the per day rate, or costing the district the per day rate, and the per day rate
Yeah.
for a teacher is $237, so.
Well, yeah, but if they had not taken those 30 days off, you would have paid them a normal wage. So really just the replacement for that substitute teacher is what you'd be looking at for your extra cost.
Well,
No, I mean,
they're
because
not working for their money.
it clearly
True.
says the cost of the extra days comes out of the district's operating fund. So, I mean,
Well, I think true cost, you wouldn't take that employee cost, you would take the replacement for that employee. The substitute you're gonna have to bring in for 30 days. That's the actual true cost of the district. You know, that I feel like
so
is
if
the
you,
extra cost.
but if, okay, so help me, because if you have an employee, a contracted employee.
Salary employee, yeah.
Yep,
I'm already gonna pay that salary whether they show up to work or not. So if they take 30 days off, I'm out the same amount of money, right?
because they're a 240-day employee, right?
Yes.
Right, I'm talking about a 190-day employee or a 178-day employee, right? So if they don't work 178 days, I don't extend their contract and make them come back in
Well,
June.
for sure. But I'm still out the exact, let's say I pay them $60,000 a year. I'm still out $60,000 a year whether they work 30 days or not. What is gonna cost me is the extra 30 days I pay a substitute to fill in for them. So if I pay them,
You're paying them you're paying them $60,000 for 190 days worth of work, right? If they only work 180 days, then in essence, you're out the 10 days that you paid them to work that they didn't work, right? Because you paid them for 190 days and only got 180 days worth of work out of it.
yeah, I paid them for the extra 10 days.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That's what that is. I'm in essence, I'm giving that individual who
They're really, the
qualifies for
teacher's
that.
not really on salary.
I understand.
They're on
You know,
salary for a specific number of days.
They're getting paid so much per day.
And if I
That's, to me, that's different than a salaried employee. Whereas a salaried employee, whether they work 20 hours, they make the
Well, how
same.
much does a substitute teacher?
roughly $100, when $120 by
I
the
would
time
look
you
at it
figure
like,
all.
I would look at it $3,000. That's what a typical catastrophic illness would cost the school district is $3,000 because to replace that teacher for 30 days is $3,000. That's the way I look at it.
And yes, that's true. And I'm going to say you have the cost of the extra 30 free sick days that you're giving that person.
And if they had been sick, they would have worked those, yeah. I think it's kind of hard to figure, but I think it's only a $3,000 cost, but you know, you're saying it's more. But,
And it doesn't, that part,
and if it's only 8 times a year, that's $24,000.
I guess what I'm still trying to figure out is, you
Well,
know,
here's the thing, is it's not fair to the other
It isn't
teachers that
fair,
fulfill
but-
their contract.
Yeah, but it also creates an issue because if that teacher's good and they feel like they were wronged,
Yeah, but then you
Guess
can't,
what?
you can't pick and choose.
yeah.
But you can look at repeat offenders, people who are, if someone's consistently doing it every other year.
well, the policy allows for you to do it once a year.
Well, I get that, but you also can see someone who's setting a trend saying, I'm probably abusing this situation. If it's not the same person every year, I'm like Mr. Gary, you just gotta take it on a case-by-case basis.
That's the way that's the way I feel. And the more strict you are, you know, you can always get easier down the road a little bit. But I think you took a good firm stance from the beginning, and it's probably cut out some of your requests.
And maybe you add to the catastrophic policy where it says elective procedures are not covered by a catastrophic policy. And I'll stand on that soapbox all day. A total joint replacement is an elective procedure. Look it up. No matter what you say, it's going to be considered an elective procedure.
All right, well, we'll,
Did we help you, Eddie?
any other issues?
Nope.
All right, I appreciate it.